Welcome to 10-Minute IELTS. Today, we'll be learning about the biggest mistake you can make in writing. Now, remember that the criteria is task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, and grammar. The first criteria means, did you answer the question? Whereas the second one talks about relevance and organization. And the third one talks about whether you were able to use a wide range of words. And grammar is about structure. But what most people don't know is how important the first criteria is. If you did not answer the question, and even if your essay is organized and you had great grammar or lexical resource, you could still get a grade of 4.5 for simply lacking comprehension. This is why the biggest mistake in writing is not understanding the question. So, number one, biggest mistake, not answering or simply understanding the question. That's why in this video, I'll be helping you understand some questions and learn how to identify what is really being asked and how you can better avoid this number one mistake. If you are able to answer the question properly and show that you understood the question, then your minimum score should be 6.0 already. Otherwise, if you did not answer the question at all, then the maximum band score you can get is only 5.0. So if you only need the 5, then definitely you can just write whatever you want and you'll definitely get a score of 5 at minimum, I suppose, or at most. But if you did not answer the question, then there's no way you could get any higher than 5.0. So let's move into one of the recent questions that came out this year and talk about how we can comprehend the question a little bit better. Starting with this one. Throughout history, male leaders have led us into violence and conflict. If a society is governed by female leaders, it will be more peaceful. Do you agree or disagree with this opinion? Now remember that when it comes to understanding the question, we have to identify what the real or main topic is about. What I like to do is I like to get rid of everything that isn't part of the last statement, because that isn't necessarily what we need to talk about. For example, if I talk about, I agree, male leaders have led us into violence and conflict, I'll just copy paste that and say I agree. Then the maximum band score your essay will get is 5.0. No matter how good the grammar or the vocabulary, this answer does not answer the question at all. Because the real question or topic is about the second sentence or the sentence closest to the question, which is, if a society is governed by female leaders, it will be more peaceful. So the proper way to answer this question could be, I agree that if society is governed by female leaders, it will be more peaceful. And just with that, even if I simply copy-pasted the question, so long as I answer the proper question or topic, this already gets a minimum grade of 6.0. All I have to do is elaborate, explain, and paraphrase, and then I could get even 6.5 or 7.0. But for this answer, no matter what you do with it, your score will always be 5.0, which is why I emphasize that it's important to understand the question. Let's take a look at another sample. This is also another question that came out in March 2020. It says, interviews have always been the most common way to choose among job candidates. Some people now think that there are better ways of finding the right person for a job. Do you agree or disagree? Now remember that I like to avoid looking at any fluff or any statements that are not part of the real question, because if I were to answer, I agree that interviews have always been the most common way to choose among job candidates, then the band score is, as you can guess, 5.0. Because the real question is the next sentence or the sentence closest to the question. People now think that there are better ways of finding the right person for a job. So the better answer would be, I agree that people now think there are better ways of finding the right person for the job. Now, in terms of paraphrasing, what I like to do is to isolate the words that really matter in the statement, because this is a bit too long for me to zone in on the main topic. I think the main question is, or the main topic is simply, there are better ways of finding the right person for a job. So I'll take this out and simply focus on, I agree that there are better ways of finding the right person for a job, and that will be much easier to understand and give me a 6.0. Take note, another trap that students might fall for is by saying that I agree there are better ways of finding a job. Now take note, this is extremely deadly. Compare the two statements. Let me get rid of the first one. I agree that there are better ways of finding the right person for a job versus I agree there are better ways of finding a job. Are they the same or are they different? Notice that this is a very common thing for students to do in the actual exam, but if you do this, your band score will only be 5.0 because I'm asking what are the better ways to find the right people and not about finding a job. So we need to be really careful when we look at the question and not jump into just saying I agree or I disagree. Really take the time to understand what is the real question and what is the main topic that I need to focus on. It turns out we are focusing on ways for finding the right person for a job. Now that we've done that example, I also want to talk about some questions that require you to give 2 different points. Here's a sample question that also came out in 2020. Some believe that we should invent a new language for international communication. Do the advantages of this outweigh the disadvantages? I read it, but I didn't really understand it, because there's such a long phrase here and I don't really know what we even need to talk about. Advantages of what? Disadvantages of what? Let's simplify. Let's take out the word some believe and simply go to we should invent a new language for international communication. I think a simpler way to say this is we should invent a new international language or a new global language. That way it's so much easier to understand, and all I need to do now is discuss the advantages for body 1, and I can guess one advantage for having a new global language is everyone will be able to understand each other. Whereas when it comes to disadvantages, one I think I can think of, one disadvantage is it will take a lot of time and effort to create a language we can all agree with. Now take note that I'm giving 2 different sets of answers, and that's because we are talking about advantages and disadvantages. And if it says outweigh, then we need to provide another advantage just to show that there are 2 advantages versus 1. Now this will be for another topic, but take note that if you only provide advantages, that is a score of 5.0. Whereas if you only provide disadvantages, that is also a score of 5.0. That's why it's also important to understand the type of question being asked. I hope with this you now know how important it is to understand the question and to review the different types of questions. To learn the different types, remember to like, share, and subscribe for updates on new videos and to click on the link in the description for online coaching. You can email us at 10minuteielts@gmail.com, and I hope that you'll be able to find this review useful for your study. Thank you for your time and good luck with your review.